Good evening, sci-fi movie fans, and welcome to another episode of the Sci-Fi Movie Guy. I've got Jason from Trench Run Rebels here. My name's Mike, and this is Jeff. You guys don't know him, but he's here to help settle drunk movie fights. Why the prequels suck or don't suck.
Don't suck.
And Jeff is going to be the intermediary. He's the host of the show tonight. He's going to tell us who wins. Jeff, do you want to tell us?
I'm impartial to it all. Like Star Wars, love Star Wars, but I'm not into it as much as these two are. Five ain't gonna get you far. Might get you 1 point.
So as you can probably tell, I am arguing against the prequels. Jason's arguing for the prequels. Mm-hmm. And Jeff has 4 questions that he's going to ask us. And the way he's going to score it is we have opening arguments, 4 questions, closing arguments. He's going to give win to each of us depending on... And if it's tied at the end, Jeff's going to come up with a way to settle this tie. Jeff, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Are you
Jason?
Guys?
I'm ready to go.
I'm ready to go, Jeff.
Okay, so...
Start the show.
Because I'm not going to see Jason for a while, because he's taking off on me.
This is the last show Jason's going to be on, the Sci-Fi Movie Guy.
How I Met Your Mother? You know, Marshmallow?
Yeah.
Face. I'm thinking this doesn't have to be the last. Doesn't have to be the end.
Does not have to be the end.
FaceTime. And,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Totally. Exactly.
J-Pillow?
Exactly. Skype it. We're going to hook this thing up.
We gotta figure out how to do that.
We'll do it then. Yeah. Because we'll have to do it when we're drinking in the garage, too.
So cheers.
I need a Skype TV
Skype drinking
in the garage.
I may get up every once in a while to grab these guys a beer because we're not actually allowed to show the brands we're drinking.
I'm drinking
Bud Light.
Hulk juice.
Hulk juice. And Yoda juice.
Kind of looks like
Holy
Hulk
crap.
urine.
It looks like you already need another one.
Yeah.
Chug that. Let me fill
Okay,
it
so-
while you tell them more.
Jason gets to go first, mainly because I'm kind of leaning that way. He already tried to give me $5. So, you know,
It's paying off already. Yes.
there you go. But Mike's going to get me beer, so it's kind of a... Since he's grabbing beer, you get to go open an argument. 4
Okay.
minutes, and I'm timing you, so...
Okay.
Give her.
So just opening statements? Okay.
Sure.
So what I'm going to do today is prove to you that while the prequels may not be perfect, there is brilliance inside of the prequels. Thank you, sir. And they definitely have enhanced the viewing experience for the entire saga. Movies, animated series, all of it. They've enhanced it all. And so they're definitely a credit to the Star Wars saga. And I'm going to prove that through some of my wisdom. That's all the time I need.
Wow.
Done.
34 seconds.
Uh-oh. I think he's pretty pumped and positive on this.
Yeah, but
You get 4 minutes, man.
you understand that you do get points for your opening arguments. It's like lawyer.
Yeah, but he's committed to... He's already got this.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages.
Prequels suck.
The prequels did nothing more than enhance George Lucas's technology and the way that he wanted to make money for the film industry. He enhanced green screen technology, he enhanced CGI, he enhanced the way that his company would look so that he could sell it in the future, but he did nothing for the way these movies or this story was told. Sure, he had an idea and he brought in some of the past history, but he never ever once enhanced our love of Star Wars. If anything, what he did was he took the prequels and took the love that I had as a 8-year-old child of Star Wars, awe and wonderment, and why this movie franchise was so near and dear to me, and take it and turn it up on its head and go, wow, this really reeks of, let's make some money. Not to mention, the little boy in me that watched Star Wars A New Hope went to see this movie. I lined up for 9 hours to go see The Phantom Menace. And I went in knowing Star Wars is never going to disappoint me. Well, guess what? I walked out of that movie and said, oh my God, greatest movie ever. And 6 hours later, I'm like, oh, well, maybe not. and I went back and saw it again the next night, and I was like, yeah, this movie sucks. So I'm going to talk about all of that and more, but I truly believe that the prequels did nothing to enhance the Star Wars universe.
Okay, so that was... You still have extra time if you want to just talk about random things.
No, but
Okay.
he might want to rebuttal. I don't know.
I'll rebuttal in my answers to my questions. So when we get into the meat of it, that's when I rebuttal.
Okay, so I didn't interrupt you in that one because I really wanted to, just because there's no opening arguments. But I probably will interrupt both of you just to be like, why?
Hey, absolutely.
So on that note, I just learned something new today. Midi-chlorians. Just
Yay.
learned it.
Good pronunciation.
Yeah, you did it perfect.
So they're talking to me about them. I had to ask, what are they? Obviously, I'm not that into it. So I spent some time on my phone playing it out. I learned a little bit. So I do have some questions with you guys. But since he got to go arguments first, he gets to go get it.
Hey, no
So,
problem.
midi-chlorians.
Question mark, question mark.
Question mark, question.
WTF?
Oh, no, I know what they are.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I'm saying WTF.
You're saying WTF. Okay. And go. Timer. Okay, so midichlorians. While a lot of people in the world don't like midichlorians, and that's apparent when you go online, that was one of the first things he said. People hate the midichlorians, don't they? Yes, a lot of people do. I think it's because a lot of people don't get what George Lucas necessarily was trying to do with midichlorians. I think a common misconception about midichlorians are not the Force. He wasn't trying to replace the Force with midichlorians. Midichlorians are a conduit through which the Force flows. If you quiet your mind, you'll hear them too. But I think George Lucas was trying to bring a little bit of, I know this is going to sound weird, a little bit of reality into it. Because if you look at religion, spirituality today, and what physicists are trying to do, they're trying to find a quote-unquote God particle. And I think midichlorians is essentially that in the Star Wars universe. It's,
Part of your soul? Is that what you're kind of going with?
no, it's what connects the spiritual, mystical, ethereal to the physical.
Fair enough.
So there's a physical connection between that ethereal plane and this crude matter that we are. There's the luminous side of it. Yoda said, luminous beings, are we not this crude matter? There's the luminous side of it, and there's the crude matter side of it. But there's something that connects those two, and that thing is midichlorians. Now, there's a lot of discussion about you have to have so many midichlorians to use the Force, and if you're not born with them... See, I think that you can actually gain midichlorians through knowledge of the Force. If you train in the Force... sure, a lot of Jedis, young Jedis were born with some sort of inkling in the Force, and they were spotted and brought into the Jedi temples to learn about it. But as they grow, I believe, this is what I believe.
It's your take.
That's my take, and you're going to give your take on it. So I think that the midichlorians can actually, the midichlorian count can grow. Now, Anakin, being a young child, and he had this number that was off the charts more than Master Yoda, Qui-Gon said he was a virgin in the Force. This is something that's never been seen. How can this kid possibly have more midichlorians than Master Yoda? And why does Master Yoda have the most? Because he's been around the longest. He's had the most training in the Force. He's had enough time to grow with his training and henceforth grow with the midichlorians. So again, it's that connection between the luminous side of us and the crude side of us that's giving a physical point. It's not the Force itself. A lot of people will throw that out there. Oh, he was trying to explain the Force by saying that it's midichlorians. He wasn't explaining the Force. The Force is still a mystery. They even talk about that in Revenge of the Sith, understanding the mystery of the Force.
Can you explain that more?
It was a line that Palpatine said just to Anakin. To understand the mystery of the Force, you must study both sides, not just the dogmatic views of the Jedi.
Well, that was to study the dark and the light, not the midichlorians.
That was to study the Force. The Force is still a mystery.
But that had nothing to do with midichlorians. That was, do you need to study the dark and the light?
That's my point.
Okay, pause for a sec.
Yeah.
Is there any mention from the dark side to the Jedi? Is there anything that different midichlorians levels?
No, there's no mention of that.
No, nothing. Okay.
No, there's no mention of a differentiation between light side, dark side, midichlorian count.
Okay.
So, but what I was saying is Palpatine's statement in you must understand both sides of it to understand the mystery of the Force. The Force is still a mystery. The Force is still the Force. Midichlorians are not the Force. Midichlorians are only the conduit through which we access the Force.
Okay. Would you like to rebuttal?
Oh, would I ever? So, I understand what you were trying to argue as poorly as you did. But I have to tell you, most of your arguments were contradictory to what midichlorians are. They said in The Phantom Menace that, and Qui-Gon, the first time he talked about midichlorians was he took the blood test and he said, oh my God, this child is off the charts with midichlorians. Mm-hmm. He has more midichlorians than even Master Yoda.
Yep.
He must be the chosen one. And as soon as they did that, what they did was, again, they took away, and I'm going to talk about the way, I guess I'll start with, they identify children with the Force at a young age, okay? And they bring them into the Jedi Order. Now, when they identify children with the Force, whether or not they test their midichlorians is kind of irrelevant, because you either have the Force or you don't have the Force, and they bring them in and they train them. So one of the things that George Lucas, and this is canon, said was Obi-Wan was not actually one of the best Force users, and yet Obi-Wan is one of the major characters in the thing. But he had the right mental discipline, okay? He had the right attitude. And again, we all know, and you and I both argue this, the Jedi probably had the way to use the Force wrong. I don't know if you know what I'm saying. Like, it shouldn't have been, oh, we have to follow rules and follow order and not have siblings.
I don't know if that's using the Force or just the religiosity, the dogmatic views of the Jedi.
Right, and you agree with me, the dogmatic views of the Jedi were wrong. But Lucas had said that Obi-Wan is not the strongest of Force users, but the reason he was such a good Jedi was because he studied and he trained and he worked hard. So to me, what that says is that you have midichlorians in your blood. Anakin had so many midichlorians, and we know that Anakin was probably the best user of the Force. Like, I mean, it was unheard of what Darth Vader could do in Rogue One. We saw it. Like, he was bouncing people off the ceilings, off the walls, and we've never seen Jedi do that. But other than Anakin, really, the midichlorians took away the mystery of the Force, and it took away the fact that anybody might be able to use the Force, and it took away the awe and wonderment of children. So therefore it took away from the legacy of Star Wars, because when I was a kid and I was watching Return of the Jedi and I was watching Empire Strikes Back, I thought, oh my God, I might be able to use the Force. And it just took me into another world where, you know what, if you're picked on as a kid and you're beaten up, you can watch Star Wars and you go, hey, maybe I can use the Force. And slam with one sentence. You either have midichlorians or you don't have midichlorians. You can use the Force or you can't use the Force. There's no randomness to it. If you're a good person, you can't use the Force because you have no midichlorians. So that's why I think midichlorians destroyed the Star Wars mysticism of the Force. It now became science. It's easily detectable by scientists. Any doctor can take a blood test. Oh, you have midichlorians, you don't. Sorry. That's my argument.
Fair enough.
Do I get a rebuttal time?
Yeah, because if not, I'm good, I think.
Okay, so as much as you said that I might be assuming about your midichlorians being able to grow with your strength in the Force growing, I think that you're assuming a lot by thinking that just because Anakin had the highest midichlorian count they've ever seen, that you either have them or you don't. In the original trilogy, Yoda talked about the Force flowing between all things. Mm-hmm. You, the tree, the rock. So who's to say the tree and the rock don't have midichlorians themselves, albeit a very, very low number, but that connection to the Force. You're able to connect to that physical, crude object through the midichlorians and through the midichlorians that are in the rock, in the tree.
Well, you just made my point for me then.
No, I didn't.
Absolutely. Because if everybody has midichlorians, why can't everybody use the Force?
Because everyone doesn't have as much access to it. And maybe some people are born with more midichlorians, a higher level of midichlorians. Why are some people born with a better aptitude for sports? Because,
So I'm going to stop you there
Okay.
because if you look at the training that Anakin took from how quickly he evolved using the Force. Quick.
Oh, very
So-
quick.
The way I see this, and,
youngest
and
council
I'm going to
member
give you
ever.
my 2 cents because
That's what you're here
that's
for.
why, yeah,
he was the
exactly.
youngest council member ever.
So we'll get into that probably a little later.
Yes, we will.
So
I'm
the way
gonna
I
get us
see
another beer while you
okay,
talk.
sounds good. The way I see this is, I have to favor Jason on this one.
No way!
Yes, I have to. Mainly because I believe that they're in everything. And I believe the higher the count, the more of the Force you have, the more you can access, the more training, fine, sure. So I kind of get yours on that one. Yep. I kind of don't agree with it, but with the training, the Force gets better, blah, blah, blah. But with the midichlorians, I believe that it's a lot to do with...
Can I argue for a second?
You can, but you already lost.
Hold on.
All right, fair enough.
But I think the thing is, the original question was, why did the prequels enhance the Star Wars universe? And I don't think you addressed as
I don't
judge.
but you guys...
I don't think you addressed as a judge. Didn't midichlorians take away the mysticism of the Force?
No, it
and
gave you
turn
more
it into
information.
science?
It gave you more.
But see,
It gave you
I
more
already spoke to that.
into the information of the of the Force.
You're the judge.
Did they tell you? Oh, that has to do with the Force. It's everything to do with the Force. Midichlorians? No. So therefore, no, I don't think it ruined it.
Okay.
So I got to go with Jay on this one.
All right.
Okay.
Yep.
for me.
Absolutely.
All right. That's one for you.
Sweet.
Okay. Just because, I don't know. It's just, you got guys that are hands-on with things,
Yeah.
can fix anything. It's in their blood. It's in their midichlorians.
Exactly.
I just, the Force is there
All right.
on everybody too, probably. It's how do they access it?
Fair enough.
Okay. Next. How did the prequels enhance or ruin the legacy of the Jedi? This time, Mike will get to go first.
Okay, so one of the major things that I absolutely love about Star Wars was in A New Hope, and it was the way that Luke came into meeting Ben, and Ben started talking about, you know, the past and the Jedi, and it was such a mystery. You know, the Jedi, they once ruled the universe, and they used to be the defenders of the peace. That was the big thing. And Luke, I need you to come with me, and I need you to go on this adventure, and I need you to help me defend they're not the Resistance then, they're the Rebellion, right? Sorry, I'm mixing up Resistance, Rebellion. Rebellion was New Hope.
Yep.
And so to me, again, it was this thing like, oh my God, these Jedi, who were they? What were they? How did they become? And he's training Luke in the Force, and then you get into it, and then you meet Darth Vader, and you hear that, you know, Luke's father killed Darth Vader, and Darth Vader used to be a Jedi, and now he's turned to the dark side. So when you got the prequels, all of a sudden, all of those mysteries were unraveled in an instance. You don't, again, I believe that movies should not explain everything, because if you're going to explain everything in a movie, then what's the point in having a movie? You might as well just pick up a book, you open the book, and again, it's the Star Wars universe, it's the movies. So you open up a book and you can read anything you want. Let's open up an encyclopedia and read the history of Star Wars, sure. But for me, again, and growing up with Star Wars, I truly believe that the reason that Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi were so successful was because they didn't tell you everything. They left it to wonderment and awe for children. Whereas when you get the prequels, you're already set up with Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, three of the arguably greatest movies of all time. I don't think that anybody would say that those three movies are not three of the greatest movies of all time. And I think people would hold them up with The Godfather. I think people would hold them up with The Sound of Music. Like, these are all iconic
Billy Madison.
movies.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Right. Then you get into the prequels. And again,
Stop looking at me so hard.
these movies, while they're in the Star Wars universe, and while us as Star Wars fans are supposed to love them because we love Star Wars, you automatically just, well, of course you can tell the story of the Jedi. Now, if what I think they did completely wrong about the legacy of the Jedi getting into the prequels is they showed so quickly this Jedi Temple, younglings. They showed that there was a Jedi Council. They had ruling council, but they rushed through it so fast. They had 3 movies to really tell the story of the Jedi. And what they did was they basically showed that the Jedi were stupid. The Jedi couldn't see the dark side of the Force. They were mysticized by the dark side of the Force. They were clouded by the dark side of the Force. One guy, Palpatine, was able to cloud the entire Jedi Council. It made the whole Jedi look stupid because they couldn't see any of this coming. So, no, it did not make the Jedi history anymore. It actually made it worse for me that I didn't respect the Jedi at all. That's me.
I'll let you go.
Questions, comments, anything?
I when I hear a prequel, and I don't know them in depth as well, but I watched the prequels, and we learning about the Jedi and the Council and stuff like that. In my world, that's part of the story.
Hey, it's great, but they made him look stupid.
I'm not going to argue that fact. Like, seriously?
Well, the question is how did the prequels enhance or ruin the legacy of the Jedi? I think it ruined the legacy of the Jedi because it showed them as a bunch of stupid morons that couldn't see past one guy, and there's like thousands of Jedi.
Okay, so the first 3 minutes that he talked, don't worry about it. Okay, so
no, but
just the last minute.
But I had to give that.
I know. Just
in how cool they were in the 3 movies, and then all of a sudden they're these morons that can't see past their own face.
Yeah, and is that part of the Force that the dark side has?
Oh, come on!
They have more midichlorians, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay, you have to. How it enhanced?
Okay. Okay, so I agree with you. When I was a young kid and hearing Obi-Wan talk about the Jedi and the Clone Wars and all this stuff, yeah, it throws up all these ideas in your head, like what a great mystery this is, and like what's going on back then, and what an amazing time that would have been when the Jedi ruled the galaxy. And then we get to watch the prequels, and we only get about, what is it, maybe 20 years of Jedi Council or Jedi legacy wrapped up in the prequels.
Only 20? You don't think 20 is enough to tell a story?
No, that's not my point. We only get about 20 years of the entirety of the Jedi Council, the Jedi legacy, the Jedi temples. The Jedi have been around for thousands and thousands of years. So we don't lose any mystery as far as how the Jedi came to be, how the Jedi grew in power. You can read some books, but that's not canon, so we're not going to go there tonight. But the brilliance of what George Lucas did is he showed us established Jedi. This is the established Jedi. And I think what he was trying to do was put a lot of real world spin in it. And again, put it akin to established religion. Established Jedi, established religion. Yes, it's this big, powerful, and great thing, but there's fault with it. And we learn about that. And just because the Jedi Council or the Jedi Order didn't come out as amazing as we might have thought as kids, they were the best things ever. He put some intricacies into it. He put a little nuance into it. And yes, it's this huge, great established thing, but they've got issues. They've got this whole order where they're not supposed to have attachments. They're not supposed to, show a lot of love for people. They're like warrior monks kind of thing. But he's showing the flaw in that. And yes, you could say stupid because they didn't see the dark side because they were clouded by the dark side. But I think that nuance in clouding them, showing them as a flaw and showing them fall. I mean, you had to show them fall at some point because when we get to A New Hope, you're all that remains of
that's Order
the Jedi.
66. I disagree. Order 66, the clones just shot them all. I don't think that has anything, but that's just my opinion.
Well, but we had to show how they got there. How could the Jedi be so blind to not see that Order 66 coming? Because the clouding of the dark side, because of their own fault. They're at fault.
I'll need some rebuttal.
They were at fault for
Give you 45 seconds.
not being able to see that coming, not having that foreshadowing coming. And yes, it was quite a curveball by Palpatine to insert the chip and make that Order 66 happen. But I think that we didn't lose any mystery as far as the greatness of the Jedi Order in the thousands of years that they've been around. We didn't lose mystery of that. All we got to see was the last 20 years of them and their quick descent because of their own fault, because of their own arrogance. Mace Windu is an incredibly arrogant Jedi. And I think he is one of the key pieces to show us this is essentially is what the Jedi is all about. Mace Windu and his arrogance. Mm-hmm. And it was a quick downfall.
So it ruined the legacy of the Jedi.
No, it didn't ruin the legacy of them.
You're kind of arguing my point.
They ruined the legacy themselves. They ruined their own legacy. But the prequels didn't ruin that legacy. They only showed us.
The prequels showed that story, which ruined the legacy of the Jedi.
Only the last 20 years of it, though. Which we had to see the downfall of the Jedi.
But we don't know what happened before.
Okay, so you get 30 seconds to rebuttal.
So there's still a lot of mystery.
So, again, you kind of argued my point for me, Jason.
Kind of. You were like, you were giving her.
Yeah.
It's like...
But again,
we had to see.
You almost had me.
We had to see.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you honestly that what we know out of the movies, okay, the Jedi were these great and powerful beings in the first 3 movies, and then all of a sudden, you know what? These Jedi were kind of dumb, and that's what we saw because it just. I think you made my argument for me.
Okay,
would have Order 66 worked if the Jedi were perfect?
No, but
okay.
Can I talk about Order 66?
Nope, it's already over.
It's important.
No, it's already. You guys can do another one. Podcast.
All right.
J Pillow.
Okay.
Okay, on this one goes to Mike for sure. Yes. Sorry, but
give me a beer.
Yeah. This one breaks down to legacy. So if you saw the first 3 movies. Mm-hmm. Jedi, unreal, untouchable, amazing, right?
Yep.
Okay. The prequels showed that they are more human than
humans.
Well, they're more. Yeah. There's more flaws with the Jedi.
Yep.
So therefore, it ruined their legacy because if it would have ended with 3 movies, their legacy would have been unreal. So therefore,
okay.
This one was one of those already decided before. Just I didn't know who was arguing what. So I'm like, oh yeah, it did. But you did. You had it right for the last 30 seconds of your chatting. The others, I don't know what you're talking.
So let us know in the comments below how these guys are wrong.
Yeah, we do want to hear. It's really important what you guys think. It doesn't matter what we think.
Join my side.
Join the dark side. Yeah.
His legacy's done. He's leaving. All right, next one. Defend George Lucas's choice to use CGI/green screen characters /sets to tell the story versus practical effects and real actors. I'm just going to tell you guys this right now. I like the prequels effects way cooler. I'm sorry. I'm putting that out there to tell everybody.
Visually stunning.
Unreal. It's unreal.
Stunning.
So you guys have to defend this though.
Yeah.
So
then I'm already at a disadvantage. So shouldn't I get to go first? Because you think that they're great.
First. Oh, Jay's letting him go first. Mike, go ahead.
So nobody can argue that Hayden Christensen is a good actor. I've seen
Are we
him.
talking about acting?
Oh,
Or are we
I was
talking
gonna
about
say-
effects?
Oh, we are so talking about acting because the question
or practical effects.
is
Real
George
actors.
Lucas' choice to use CGI green screen characters like Obi-Wan or
Hayden
like
was a
Jar Jar
CGI
Binks.
character?
No, Anakin wasn't.
Okay.
So,
So-
he's going obviously real.
So
I'm guessing.
I'm talking about real versus CGI.
Okay, you talk.
But he's not that
Real-
good of an actor.
Oh, here's
Hold
the 4
on.
minutes.
Okay, go.
Hold on.
Now it's
Hayden Christensen is actually an incredible actor. If you've watched any of his movies outside of Star Wars, he actually does a good job. Yes, I'll.
My opinion.
Have you seen any movies with him
Crystal
outside
made
of
me
Star
watch
Wars?
that one. What was it? The Butterfly Effect? No, that was
Jumper. He was in
no,
Jumper.
Jumper. That one. I'm like, eh.
Anyway, when you take the only good actor in that entire show would have been Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, really,
Actor or character?
actor. I'm talking about actors right now. So
Natalie Portman, Oscar winner, is not a good actor.
not in that movie. And the reason she wasn't Natalie Portman. Actually, you just made my point for me. Natalie Portman is one of the most amazing actresses in the world.
I had such a crush on her.
Why did she suck so bad in the prequels? Well, I'll tell you why. Because she didn't have anyone to act against. She was standing in front of all these green screens instead of sets. So she had to imagine in her head the entire time that she was in front of a lake, or she was on a podium, or she was on a spaceship, or she was wherever. Nope, she was standing on a piece of wood, plywood, with a big green screen behind her, and having to talk to some guy in blue dots, who was Jar Jar, and wasn't able to totally take her character to the next level. She basically had to read the lines and go, well, I guess this is how I feel because there's wind blowing and there's sand and it's hot. Well, it's not hot. It's at 20 degrees because they're inside Pinewood Studios with just green screens. Now, anybody can tell you in the acting world, you try to act in front of a green screen, it's not going to happen. You are not going to have the same performance. And they did not have good performances. If you look at Padme and Anakin's interactions, and you look at the way Natalie Portman and Hayden Christensen were acting, it was deplorable. But let's not even talk about those two. Let's talk about Jar Jar Binks. Probably the worst character ever made in Star Wars. And I know, George Lucas said it was for the kids. I agree with Star Wars should be for the kids. I don't have any kids, but lots of my friends do, and their kids love Star Wars.
My
And
kids hate Jar Jar.
Oh.
He's stupid.
thanks for helping me, Judge.
I'm just saying.
And again, total CGI character.
Really young, they did.
Yeah, but not now.
But
yeah.
He's dumb.
if you know film and you know film history and you've listened to any of the behind the scenes stuff where they were being interviewed later on after the prequels were long gone, all of the actors, again, except for, God, what's Obi-Wan's real name? What is the actor?
Ewan McGregor.
Thank you. Ewan McGregor was the only one that did not schlag
Seen T2
Lucas. Ewan McGregor defended Lucas's choice to use green screens, but everyone else, everyone that was in that said, I had a really hard time getting into character. I had a really hard time acting. Now, all that aside, you do special effects in the third movie, Revenge of the Sith. The opening 17 minutes of that movie was completely CGI, where it starts off with the battle and they're flying through the air, and if you look at it, it's visually stunning, but it does not help enhance the acting of the movie. Yes, it's a visually stunning performance and it's visually stunning sets.
There's nothing in this about acting.
Well, real actors.
Real actors.
versus CGI actors.
Yeah, real actors.
But not acting. You're talking about acting.
Yeah, that's how the question was.
Okay,
I actually
now-
asked that question, remember? That's how I meant the question to be.
You want to change the question now?
No.
No, I'm
Okay,
good.
cool. I just have one question. Why didn't George Lucas do these films sooner than when he did?
He was
Because
going through a divorce and
no.
there was a lot of...
It's not
Striking
true.
stuff.
The reason he didn't do these movies until 20 years later was because he was waiting for the technology to catch
was
up
amazing.
to do it the way that he wanted to do it.
Just throwing that out there.
He did, and when the
actually knew
technology
that one.
when the technology finally caught up, he thought it would make these Star Wars movies incredible, but it did not.
Okay.
They were so divisive among Star Wars fans that it could have ruined the entire legacy.
Okay. Jay.
Okay, so thank you for that point, because that's actually one of my points. So he waited for technology to catch up. It did catch up to a point. There's the ability to do it, but nobody else was doing it on this scale. Absolutely no one else was doing it on this scale. So George Lucas, being the visionary that he is, he said, this is the vision I have for Star Wars, and this is what I want to do, and we're going to do it this way.
You mean this is how I want to sell my company in 5 years, so I want to make sure they can all see my practical and my special effects.
He's wasting my time.
Give him 10 more seconds.
I will.
So this is the vision that I have for Star Wars, and this is my ability to do it now. Say what you will about the practical effects. They're brilliant. For 1998, 97, when they started filming, the film came out in 99. For 97, 98, film came out in 99. Go back to any movie of that time, and Star Wars it stands up. I mean, yes, you can see technical flaws as far as how far the digital has come nowadays. If you look at Force Awakens,
Yeah, but you can't compare 30 years. I will give you that.
yeah, you can't compare that. So he was pushing the technology. Yes, he was pushing the technology. Look at the original
Disney buyout.
Look at the original trilogy. That was like 20 years later. You can't even see that. That he was
started
planning in the late 90s
Yes,
to
he
sell
was.
to
Smart man,
Disney
man.
in 20 years.
Absolutely.
Okay, anyway, if you look at the original trilogy, they're very
Remember,
small.
it's drunk movie fights. I'm getting drunk.
I'm all good. If you look at the original trilogy, they're very small. I mean, a lot of the sets, you're in the Millennium Falcon, you're in Cell Block 1138, you're in all these very small places. And yes, we do have some brilliant dogfights, and all computer controlled, by the way, computer controlled cameras making the trench runs and all that kind of stuff. He's always been about pushing technology, right? So if you look at the original trilogy compared to the prequel trilogy, he took this universe that's this big and he made it this big. It's a massive universe. And your point about the first 18-20 minutes of Revenge of the Sith being mostly
No, it was
CGI.
100%.
Well, except for Anakin and Obi-Wan, and except for the actors that
two
were
guys.
physically there. Yeah, so not 100%.
Okay, 99.7%.
So 99.7% CGI, visually stunning, visually amazing. Could you have done that on that scale with practical effects? Easily, he says, but I don't think so. And I
Really?
don't think
Why don't
so
we
at that
talk
time.
about the final battle of Return of the Jedi? That was not CGI.
That wasn't the same scale as the battle over Coruscant.
I think Return of the Jedi was better.
Okay, well, you guys watch both those scenes and then comment below, and I'll finish my question.
Sometimes you gotta let it go. I don't know. See where it goes.
So he's pushing the industry. And honestly, I know Jar Jar's a fool. Jar Jar is a fool. When my kids were like 4 years old, they thought Jar Jar was funny. Now my boy's 7 years old, and he realizes he's an idiot. He makes the fart jokes.
Yes.
He's
We
silly.
can't even hold Jar
But-
Jar part of this argument because he's so stupid.
But
technically he's a
1999, Jar Jar Binks, the digital visual look of Jar Jar, it holds up today. 20 years later,
Okay.
there are parts of the digital creation of the prequels that you can see today. As
Misa, don't agree with you!
I think your bias of his character is influencing the visual aspect of him. The visual aspect of a completely 100% digital character in 1999. He's really good. Actually, if you look at Gollum, really early Gollum, if you see the extended version of the Fellowship of the Rings, Gollum doesn't look as good as Jar Jar does.
Oh.
I
I just
up.
watched it.
If you look at the theatrical release, Gollum doesn't appear except for his eyeballs in the Fellowship of the Rings. He doesn't actually appear full on until the second one.
I know.
But if you watch the extended version, you get to see Gollum in the first one. but that Gollum
But that was
compared
done
to Jar
6
Jar,
years later.
I know, isn't it?
The extended version wasn't taped till 6 years later. I know what you're talking about. From the time, sorry to interrupt you, but from the time the theatrical release of Fellowship of the Ring came out till the time the extended release, those DVDs weren't released till 6 years later. They weren't the first
but those
set
were
of
just
DVDs.
cuts, weren't they?
No.
I think
Did
they
they
were
actually
just cuts.
went back and filmed all that stuff?
No, that was
No, that was all
that
done
was pre-
CGI later.
it was done. It came out in that box set.
Are you sure?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, I'll say
it
I'm
did.
wrong.
Because
But...
I remember seeing it. I'm like, oh, okay. Because it was at the end, and then they pushed it a little
So
further.
you're saying they added the 58 extra minutes as soon as the DVDs came out?
And that's what I thought.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
No,
I-
not as soon as the DVDs came out. You can get a theatrical cut of the DVD.
So-
I'm saying that the extended cut came later, but all that was just cutting room floor material.
Yeah, it was already. They had the footage.
They had the
or
footage.
the whatever.
You need to give them more time because I.
Well, we got
We're talking about
off.
Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings now. But as far as I know, that the cutting room floor material of Gollum was originally in place.
Okay.
But they just reinserted it. But
Fair
if
enough.
you compare
Gollum
that
to Jar Jar.
to Jar Jar, Jar Jar looks better today than that extended version of Gollum. And all I'm saying is Jar Jar stands up pretty damn well for being the first 100% digital character, 100% main digital character in a film. And
Okay, so,
my one last point before you cut me off.
No, he's
No,
already
but
had
My one last
6
point
minutes.
is there is a
You never
ton
see
of
him again.
there's a ton of practical sets on the Phantom Menace, and everyone
Which ones?
shits on it.
No, now you got to give him more time. Which ones? Tell me the other than the Italy set, Padme's home.
I said practical
Yeah.
practical sets. I didn't say that they weren't green screened in. But
whatever.
we're talking miniatures. The Boon to Eve race, that entire
Yeah, but
thing,
none of it helps the actors.
I'm
None
not
of it
saying-
helps the
There's
characters.
nothing in that question about acting ability.
Yeah.
All I'm talking about.
Yeah, there is.
And George Lucas being the first to do this, to push this forward, yeah, it was very difficult for that first set of actors to stand in front of a green screen. People do it all the time
Do you
now.
have enough to make a decision?
Oh yeah, I made my decision a little while
Okay.
ago.
Then you
That's
should
why
have
I was
cut us
trying.
off.
I was trying to, but you. Oh no, let him talk. So
There was a ton of miniature practical sets
yeah,
in the
yeah,
Phantom Menace.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so on this one, which one ruined or enhanced Star Wars universe flat out?
Bigger, better.
See, it all comes back down to Simpsons when Hans Moleman is in the theater. Everybody's glasses blow up, everything's shattered, and he's like, turn it up. So, you know what? Without George Lucas and what he pushed on the technology on it, I think this one, technology-wise, yes, unreal. It pushed the envelope. And I know why I asked the question, because it was pretty much the only thing I knew about this one topic, is George Lucas waited to make them because he couldn't.
Yep.
Okay? So without him, if he would have done them practically, I don't think he would have done it right. So therefore, I don't think it ruined it.
Oh.
Because he waited. Because he knew in his own mind that it was going to ruin it.
Fair enough. So it's 2-1?
Yep.
All right.
Okay. Next one. So this is the one I was looking forward to.
Do we get any pit stop time here?
Pit stop? Pee break?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Jason and or Jeff and I can talk, and I can tell him why he was so wrong to give that to you.
Okay, you can judge.
Jeff, the question was, defend George
Yeah, but you're
Lucas's
talking about
choice.
acting. Oh, the acting. Okay, honestly,
Let
if you're an
me-
actor, you're paid millions of dollars, you should be able to act in front of a cardboard box.
No way.
Yep.
Jeff. George Lucas. No, I'll give you an example. Okay? If you're doing memory work,
Okay.
and you have somebody flamboyant and boisterous that you've seen perform that memory work in an open lodge. Okay, you've seen it already, and you've seen them do an absolutely amazing job. Wouldn't you try to emulate that? Rather than if you've seen a horrible person do it, wouldn't you not emulate that? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it that way. So it's all about what we've seen in the past that helps us with what we've seen in the
I
future.
agree with you on that.
So then,
But
when you stand in front of this square box and you have nothing to look at. Imagine you're in a square box and you have absolutely nothing to look at but green screens. And you have no actors in front of you, nobody feeding you lines. And all you have is some guy off in the corner up on a stand, and he's like, so you say, the Force binds us. This is your line. You're the actor. The Force binds us and brings us all together. And then some chick off in the side is going, and you know what? I love you. Oh, I love you too. Oh, no, I really love you. No, I really... And you have to act to somebody way over... No, but think
You're
about
paid
this.
millions for... Okay, Connor McDavid. Let's go somewhere where I can actually... I know.
Yeah, let's
Okay?
go to Connor McDavid.
So, Connor McDavid, give him a straight stick. Think that's going to
He's
change?
the point guard for the Oilers, right?
Yes. Yeah. He gets lots of touchdowns.
Give him a Ryan Smith stick is what
Fine,
you're
give
saying.
him a Ryan Smith. Give him a straight stick. He will do amazing. with
No
it.
way. You're so wrong.
Oh,
you
God.
give
Okay, so the next time...
You give Connor McDavid a straight stick, he's not going to be able to do the same pull breakaway.
Somebody go check YouTube. I'm sure it's there. Oh, I bet you can.
No way. You're
You
a hockey
can.
player.
You can.
You're a hockey
Okay.
player. If I give you a Ryan Smith stick, can you do the same pick and pull and drop it in the top corner?
He doesn't
as
have the
you can?
midichlorians that
Yeah,
Connor
I'm still
McDavid
waiting on
has.
them.
I'm saying, could you do the same pick pull, backhand drop in the top corner with a straight stick as you can with the curved stick in the point?
You learn to use what you got.
Oh, okay. Come on.
That's another day.
Yeah.
We'll have to play with this one another day.
So anyway, Jason's back.
Okay.
I know you guys are bored because
Hockey?
you probably turned this off because we were talking hockey.
Well,
But I'm glad you stayed because now this is the question. Of
okay,
all
so this is the
questions.
question that I was waiting for kind of all
feel,
night.
I feel
need
pretty
another
good going
beer.
into the fourth
I
question.
might as well get one too because I think we might be here a little bit.
So I'm up 2-1 going into the fourth quarter, and I'm feeling pretty good about this fourth quarter.
I don't know. Closing arguments worth 2 points.
Closing arguments, 2 points. Okay.
So, okay, on this one, how did the prequels enhance or ruin the legacy of the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan? So, this one is going to be... I got 4 minutes for both of you on this one, but honestly, because I'd like to see this full views on this one, I'll let it go a little longer. Since Mike's grabbing beer, Jay, you get to start us off.
Okay. So, the legacy of the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker. Bum, bum, bum. So, the only thing we get about that relationship is in A New Hope. We get a few lines from Sir Alec Guinness talking about that relationship. He was a great warrior and a brilliant pilot.
I still want to get in on the nice tablecloth.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you, Michael.
We get a brief line from Obi-Wan Kenobi when he's talking to Luke about his father, how he was a great pilot and a brilliant warrior, great pilot, however the line goes. And then we get the confrontation between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader. The last time I met you, I was the student and you were the master. Now I am the master. We get very little. We know that there's something there. We know there's a relationship there. But in the original Star Wars, we get very little of that. So now going back to the prequels, I would have to say that this is probably the strongest thing about the prequels and the most brilliant thing about the prequels. We already heard him say that Ewan McGregor was the best actor of the prequels.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. And he drives the relationship. Yes.
He drives all 3 movies. The whole movies.
You could say that.
No question.
I would.
And Sheev.
And Sheev, just throwing that out there, Sheev. I would say that Liam Neeson has a strong role in Phantom Menace, but that's
Fair
not the
enough.
question.
Whatever.
That's not the question. We're talking about the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. So, Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, going back and forth. Yes, Hayden Christensen is a whiny... I slaughtered them, all of them, the children and everything. that's what Luke is. That's what Luke is. We had to see where that came from. And Luke got his whininess. And I was going to Tosh Station to pick up power converters. He got his whininess from his dad. Guess what? It runs in the family. Okay. So he was a whiny kind of bitch, we'll say. But
Kids watch this show.
well, you'll beep it
You
out.
can beep that out.
I already
I
said
don't know how.
I said shit before, so I
Okay,
said it
well,
again.
just like ding. I don't know.
Hey kids, let's learn some new words.
It's female dog.
So Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Hayden Christensen. It's a brilliant relationship. We actually get to see how they grow. We get to see how Phantom Menace, he calls him a pathetic life form. This is going to go on to be his best friend. He's like, oh, what other pathetic life form have you picked up now? He doesn't think much of this little kid. And we get to see their relationship grow. We get to see that kind of father-son relationship. Anakin hates it. He becomes a rebellious teenager. He's holding me back. I've got so much more power, but Obi-Wan's holding me back. And we get to see them grow to be father-son, and then more like brothers. Obi-Wan says it, "You are brother, Anakin." And that relationship was just built so strong throughout the prequel trilogy, and it meant so much to you. And when you got to see, I mean, a lot can be said about how quickly Anakin fell. But once he fell, and it's probably the strongest scene of the entire prequels, that what I just quoted.
When he's lighted
you
on
are
fire.
you are a brother, Anakin. You can see the pain in both of their
Obi-Wan.
eyes.
Well,
You can see the
yeah.
pain in Obi-Wan. You can see the pain and the hate in Anakin's eyes.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan should have just one more. I mean, if he was really
But
a brother, let me put you out of the
Obi-Wan
misery.
never finishes anything.
He never finishes anything, but potentially he had a child, or a grandchild. That's for another podcast.
I was going to say that.
Right.
He should have finished Anakin off, but we all know that Darth Vader had to grow into his power. But that relationship that they had throughout the three prequels, I think it was the strongest arc. It was the strongest story, and Hayden's acting. I know you mentioned Hayden's acting. I don't think it was necessarily the actor's fault. It was all green screen. George Lucas is not known for being a great director's actor. He's known for being a visionary. And while Hayden's performance wasn't that great, I think a lot could be said about Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker and their brilliant interweaving. I don't know how long I've gone.
Yeah, but it did a ruin or enhance.
Oh, I think it enhanced it because all we got in the originals was just a brief little mention of it and that confrontation, and then Obi-Wan disappeared, and that's all we got. So then going back and getting to see that growth of relationship over the trilogy, going from him thinking he's a pathetic life form to calling him a brother after he chopped off his legs and his arm and left him to burn on the hillside of
kind of a dick
Mustafar. It was kind of a dick move. He should have put one more jab through.
Seriously.
But getting to see that growth, I think it was brilliant. I think not a lot could be said in the Contra. I'd like to hear what you might have to say in the Contra.
Michael.
It's my turn.
Yeah. You have more than 4 minutes if you need.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest villain of all time in any movie across the galaxy is Darth Vader. Will you argue that?
No. I will not. I'm a Star Wars fan. He might. He might say it's a Calgary Flame, Theron Fleury or something. I don't know.
Darth Vader. We all grew up nightmares about Darth Vader. Darth Vader was iconic. He changed the word villain in the dictionary. Before villain was not really villain. In my opinion, in 1977, villain took on a new meaning, and it took on the meaning of Darth Vader. George Lucas redefined what a villain was. A villain was ominous, it was mysterious, it was all evil, it was maniacal, it was all encompassing. And then you get into The Empire Strikes Back. This is just A New Hope. Then you get into The Empire Strikes Back and you see Luke Skywalker fighting Darth Vader, and probably the biggest reveal of cinematic history ever. To this day, people still say, I am your father. It is done in memes. It is done in spoofs. It is everybody. When you say, I am your father, everybody knows it's Star Wars. It's The Empire Strikes Back. Then you get into Return of the Jedi and you see Darth Vader turn into this troubled villain, and at the end of it, Luke Skywalker brings him back from nowhere, and redemption of Darth Vader, and it takes villain to a whole new level. It brings this villain back to the redemption of his son, and all of this from, I think, one scene in A New Hope where Obi-Wan, and again, I'm getting back to the question of how did it affect the relationship.
Thank you for getting back to the question.
No, but I had to give you I had to give you the context of Darth Vader. It brings it back to that one scene in A New Hope where I am the master now. You are but the apprentice. Mm-hmm. So, I think that's all we needed. That was all we ever needed of that storyline to create the greatest villain and the greatest tragedy in movie cinematic history. Was I am now the master, you are but the apprentice. Then we go back into the prequels. Hey, let's find out. Oh, everybody's all happy. Oh, we're buddies, we're brothers. Oh, you're a whiny little whatever they said. I'm not going to use the
Female
word.
dogs.
And let's explore all of this. Let's go back and see. And again, I agree with you 100%. Obi-Wan was the greatest part of the prequels. But if you watch the anti-cheese version of the prequels that was made, they take out most of the Anakin stuff and they just focus on the Obi-Wan stuff. Absolutely not.
No, I haven't seen it then.
But what I'm saying is that it did nothing to further the story of the Anakin and Obi-Wan. All it did was de-hance it. It de-hanced. When I watch Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi now, I don't see the great villain of Darth Vader, and I don't see the tragedy of him turning on Obi-Wan and killing Obi-Wan anymore. What I see is, all I think about is that backstory of how Anakin and Obi-Wan and all the mystery of Darth Vader is gone. So did it help enhance the Obi-Wan Darth Vader relationship? No, I think it hurt it. I think it hurt it big time. Because the mystery of that greatest villain of all time and I think that was the one thing they shouldn't have explored so much in the prequels. I think the prequels should have focused more on Yoda, the mysticism of the Force, how the Force came into being. I think the prequels was a tragedy of a story that didn't need to be told, and it should have been told from the legacy of the Force and how the Force was created and what we could have learned about the mysticism, the religion of the Force, and how the Force works. So I think that story was the worst part of the prequels, was the Obi-Wan Anakin story. I think it was absolutely horrible, and it should have never been in the prequels.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you, and I agree with you that Darth Vader is the greatest villain in cinematic history.
I'll give you, you know what? I'll give you guys that one, because as a kid growing up, that's exactly who. I was trying to think back to a movie while you're having on there, and you know what? That was probably the villain you knew of as a kid, even growing up. You know what? I'll give you that one. It's not
and totally, I agree with you. Darth Vader is the greatest villain in cinematic history, and thank you for pointing out his character arc throughout the original series, the original trilogy. You know, in the first one, he's just nothing but evil. He's nothing but the dark side and hatred and scary guy, greatest villain of all time. And then the second one, it continues on.
So you're just gonna say exactly what I said?
No, hear me out. And in the second one, it goes on to do the I'm your father. Okay,
vulnerability.
Holy cow, there's a twist. Yes, vulnerability. And he's able to be redeemed
In
and
the third one.
he's able to be redeemed from that. So
You didn't need the prequels
so
to do
in-
that. They
in
did it
that
perfectly.
in that original series, we see that he's not 100% evil. He's not 100% dark side. There's something else going on there. Okay, so then
perfectly story told.
we go back, and if you want to talk about ring theory, mirror version, in the prequels, we get to see the opposite of that.
Yeah.
We see how
Yeah,
he's...
which destroyed the third
No,
three
we
movies
see how
the
he's,
way
this,
we watched them
he's a
now.
young, innocent child. Children aren't born evil.
I really liked him, actually. I thought it was really cool.
As a child, children aren't born
sure,
evil.
who doesn't
Children,
like the kid?
children are born just innocent little children.
But
then things
Understand.
happen.
that young kid that was racing pods hadn't met Obi-Wan
I know,
yet.
but that guy was cool.
But we
didn't meet
we see
Obi-Wan
this character
yet.
arc.
No.
We see where he's this innocent thing, but he's got some parental issues because he doesn't have a dad. He just has a mom. So he's got some weird kind of attachment issues.
That's a whole nother series. Actually, I want to get into that one with you guys one night. We could do it on because that one's...
But we see that exact same arc going in the opposite direction. He's born innocent, and then
Absolutely.
he starts to get dark. He's got some issues. We get to see those issues come into the forefront. We get to see him transfer his issues from his mother to his girlfriend, his wife, and then we get to
But
see
that had
his
nothing
wife
to do with
die.
Obi-Wan. That had to do with him losing Qui-Gon
Right,
Jinn.
but I'm going to your point. This was your argument, so I'm just rebuttaling your argument. So we get to see that growth there, and then adding Obi-Wan into that mix, we get to see him take him on as a father figure. And then he rebels against him, but they go on so many adventures that he then he realizes that, no, this guy's like a brother to me, and we get to see that. And because
we
of
don't
his...
see that in the movies, in the prequels. We see that in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the
I
Clone
know,
Wars tonight.
but you're bringing up the relationship.
Yeah, there's a
because of
growth
what
there.
you saw in the Clone Wars.
But the distinction between episode 2 and episode 3, we know that there's a gap there, and we know that there's growth that's taken place there. So we get to that growth, we get to visualize. We get to assume that. So then...
outside of you and me.
Or Uma Thurman. So then going into that, we get to see him transfer his daddy issues and then brother issues, and then he's got the wife issues, and then he thinks that there's some sort of
Wife
weird...
issues have nothing to do with Obi-Wan.
I don't know, because that's a whole other thing.
Yes, they do, because there's a triangle.
Yeah,
there.
they're
He sees.
yeah.
Oh, that's
He
the
gets
Jedi
jealous
that don't
of
want
Obi-Wan.
Yeah, because
he gets jealous of Obi-Wan because he thinks there's a
Yeah,
relationship there.
yeah, it's one of those. I understand that part.
She
yeah.
comes to Coruscant. He sees Obi-Wan. What are you doing? You brought him here. There's
Thought they were
definitely a
doing
thing
Debbie
there.
Does Dallas or something going on.
There's definitely a thing there, but that relationship is nothing but enhanced by the prequels because we
I
get to
get
see
to ask
that
you
entire
one question at the end of
growth.
this.
Oh, you actually
Time.
you actually can have 2 minutes to rebuttal this or
Are you done?
yeah. He's
Yeah, go.
Jeff, you watched those first 3 movies. A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Yep.
Darth Vader was the greatest villain of all time. You
Correct.
agree with me?
Yep.
You watched the prequels. When you go back and you watch Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, is Darth Vader still the greatest villain of all time, or do the prequels change your view now that you know what happened between Obi-Wan and Anakin and you saw all that, and now do you still think he's the greatest villain of all time?
But that's assuming there's no character growth at all. Yeah,
Let me ask the
that's
question.
assuming Anakin
You can
was
ask him
born
a
to
question,
Stephen
too.
King.
Kate,
Doesn't it take
Yes.
away from how great the villain was?
yes, it does.
So that did not enhance the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and hurt it. Because the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin in A New Hope, that was all we had of the relationship. It was 5 minutes, and I am the master now, you are but the apprentice. That was all we needed. Now you've got all this other stuff, and you go back and you watch that one scene, because that's all I have to stand on is that one scene. Does that one scene mean as much? Now I am the master, you are the apprentice. Did the prequels ruin that one scene? That is all I have to stand on.
So, out of both your arguments, no, I don't think so. I really don't. Just because of the fact that with the
Can I have a
backstory,
chance to rebut that question?
Why? He's agreeing with you.
I agree with
I
you, but
agree
go
with
ahead.
No, you agreed. He agreed with you there.
But I
on
do
that
agree.
point.
I do agree. The villain thing, that's not what we're on right now. Villain thing, yes, you're right. The prequels made it so it's, I've seen better villains now. But as a kid growing up, and the first three, yeah.
But see, to your point, now you are the student and I am the master. We get to see that whole thing evolve.
Exactly.
We get to see Anakin, Obi-Wan. We get to see him being the master. We get to see Anakin being the student. We get to see Anakin growing and being on a level playing field. Now they're brothers. Now they're both Jedi masters, or they're both Jedi knights. Anakin's not a master yet. They're both Jedi knights. They're both brothers. They're both on an equal playing field. And we get to see that because of his arrogance in the prequels, then he just believes on his own merit that he's surpassed him. And then when it comes back to it in the original trilogy, when he says that, it gives it more meaning.
Yeah,
it gives it more meaning because
Please
Going
tell
into
us.
the backstory.
Please tell us in the comments section that I'm right.
tell him that I'm right. Prove to him.
I'm always right. I'm in the middle.
He's
Yeah.
the great Jedi.
I think with the backstory and learning more, I think it means more. Jay, I gotta go. Jay
Then we don't even need closing arguments.
Yeah, we
It's
did. There were
3-1.
2 points.
It's worth 2 points.
We're 2
You
points.
could come back and tie, and then we'd have a tiebreaker.
All right. I want him to go first then.
Fair enough. Jay, Mike's gonna go first. No, I'm just kidding. Jay, you can go first.
Okay, so closing arguments. Are the prequels perfect? No, they're not. I don't think anyone would say that they're perfect movies. They have flaws. For us being so many years old, and we're not children, we're not 5 years old, we don't get to appreciate some of the humor. That was actually certainly something that helped me grow in appreciation of the prequels, is watching them with my children when they were young. When my children were like 5 years old and I showed them The Phantom Menace, they were laughing at the fart jokes. They were laughing at the stupid things that Jar Jar did. The things that I thought were ridiculous. But then George Lucas has said all along, I made these for kids.
Yeah.
And when I saw my kids enjoying them in that moment, I was like, oh, yeah, he did make them for kids and not for us old guys that were fans of the things so many years ago. So are they perfect movies for us as old guys? No. There's some silly things that happen. Do they add to the legacy of the entire trilogy? Absolutely they do, because they give us so much backstory. They give us things that add credibility and they add weight to some of the things that were talked about in the original series. And we get to learn a little bit more. Does it give us everything? No. Do we still completely and 100% understand the mystery of the Force? Absolutely not. And I think that I could talk for hours about the mystery of the Force, and I think that I will someday. But we don't get that. We get midichlorians, there's a connection there, but we still don't understand it. We get this amazing relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and we get George Lucas pushing this technology. If not for George Lucas pushing the technology, if not for Attack of the Clones being the first feature film to be shot 100% on a digital camera, maybe a lot of people wouldn't have done it. Maybe the technology would be many years behind because of that. But George Lucas being that visionary, being the guy to push it forward, I think we as a society benefited from the prequels, and the entire saga benefited from the prequels.
I was going to cut you off in 3 seconds.
Do it. Done.
It's fair. Jason, you made my argument for me. I win. Jason said the prequels were not for old guys like us. They were for kids. Your exact
No, I said
words.
George Lucas said that. I was
Sure.
quoting George Lucas.
Yeah, and fair enough. Because you're right, the prequels were not for us. But the original trilogy, my grandfather and my mother took me. It was the first movie I ever saw was Star Wars A New Hope. I was 8 years old. I came out of that movie and all three of us said, oh my God, that changed my life. It changed my life. And the question at the beginning was, and I know that's what you're
what's the title
looking,
of this episode?
why the prequels ruin and enhance the Star Wars universe.
Not for old guys.
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Because the Star Wars universe was for everyone at the beginning. The first 3 movies were for everyone. They were for people that were 70, people that were 40, people that were 20, and people that were 8 years old like me. It was for everyone. It had something for everyone. It could relate to everyone. It was family orientated. It was comfort. It was amazing. Jeff, you and Jason both agreed Star Wars created Darth Vader, the greatest villain of all time. I believe it also created the greatest heroes of all time. Princess Leia was a masterpiece for women. It showed women that you can be strong, feminine, everything. It created Han Solo. You can be a scoundrel, but you know what? Even scoundrels can be redeemed. It created so many things in our world. And then you get to the prequels. And guess what? This is just for kids. This isn't for adults. This isn't for people that... It was so divisive between Star Wars fans that had grown up with Star Wars. And now it's for this little group. It did not enhance the Star Wars universe. What it did was it made it divisive. It made a divisive universe that now only certain people liked it. And I will tell you straight up, this is my opinion. It took me over 22 years to even entertain that the prequels might be okay. I've admitted that to you. The prequels now, I'm okay with them. I can see the positives of them. You don't, though. Because there are so many more negatives than positives that I'm trying as a Star Wars fan. But my mom loved the first 3 movies and was so excited to take me to them. And she tried to watch The Phantom Menace and said, this is horrible. This is not Star Wars. So the prequels did not enhance the Star Wars universe. They did not do what the first 3 movies did. They detracted from it.
I just have a 1 sentence, maybe 2 sentence rebuttal. That's it. And then I'm done.
Fine.
The Star Wars prequels are for everyone, but as an adult, you have to be able to appreciate the nuance. Are they the original trilogy? No.
I should
they
be
are
able,
substantially more nuanced than the original
I should
trilogy.
be able to, out of anyone, appreciate the nuances. I know Star Wars almost as well as you do, and I couldn't appreciate them for 22 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, on this note, I gotta go, so I'll talk to you guys later. I see where you're coming from. I understand. I see where you're coming from, and I understand. It comes down to me as a kid growing up. If I only saw the first 3 original Star Wars, would have been the best ever. I look at my kids. They'd seen the 3 new ones before
They saw, yeah.
Yep. And so I got to think of this in another way. Okay, well, we had to show them the first 3 first, and then they watched the other ones.
But that's not how everybody saw it.
Exactly. So you got to think of it that way. For them, it's not a prequel. That's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to the CGI and stuff like that, you know, you can, the kids make the comment. You're like, man, it's not as cool as this thing. And you're trying to explain to them, this was when Dad was a kid. And when it comes down to it, my father-in-law and mother-in-law paid for my last tickets to Star Wars because they were going and they're like, everybody, let's go. So when it comes to the age thing, you know what? If you're a Star Wars diehard fan, I'm sorry, but it boils down to it doesn't matter if I don't think it ruined it because you still went and saw it, didn't you?
Saw it twice.
Exactly.
And hated it.
But you went and saw it twice. You're still talking about it. Didn't ruin the Star Wars universe. It gave you more intel into it. You didn't like how...
If you didn't have kids, you wouldn't be saying that.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of the prequels as much as I am of the originals because I grew up with the originals. Nothing's ever going to beat the originals. Ever.
I respect your decision, though.
Nothing ever is going to beat the originals. Villain, you're right. I'll definitely give you that. Always. He, 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 he it gave me more of a backstory. The more information, the better.
Yep.
So I don't think it ruined it.
So
After
your
you guys-
decision?
My decision is Jason wins.
Yes. Folks, I don't have to agree with it, but I respect the judge.
And
do.
but I brought a prize for the winner.
Uh-oh.
I brought
Prize.
prize.
Jeff's got
Sweet.
prizes. So while Jeff's getting the prize, guys, this was Drunk Movie Fights. This is Jason's last episode. Jason, I'm going to miss you dearly being on this show.
It was good. I enjoyed coming over here every single time, and it was a great. We'll figure out how Skype works.
We're
Nice.
water.
A mystery.
it's a bottle of water.
I
Well,
enjoy
this
mystery bottles of
this
water.
bottle. Jason and I have a very long history of passing this type of bottle.
Kids,
Back and
it's
forth.
a Scottish bottle of water, I'm assuming.
Irish.
Irish.
Yeah.
It's an Irish bottle of
And
water.
it's what we do to each other. It's I don't know how many we've passed back and forth.
One or two.
Yeah.
So, little backstory. Jeff introduced me to Jason because we both love Star Wars. Jeff's the guy that got us together, so that's why we wanted him on the last show that Jason's here.
Nice.
Because the three of us, we just grew to be such good friends.
I have to tell you guys the backstory on how these two got into it.
This is a funny
So
story.
we were in my garage drinking, which happens once, maybe twice,
A year.
maybe, yeah. And
A week.
Jason and I were really close. Mike and I were really close, and made the comment that, "Oh yeah, my buddy Jason knows everything there is to know about Star Wars." Mike's, "There's no way." He's like, "I know more." Well, this is how that got started. So then Jason was over one day, Mike was over one day, and I think I threw out the question of try and stump each other. So that's what the finale was going to be. Was going to be a try and stump each other, so that you guys can use it for another show or something.
We will.
Okay,
Well,
but
he actually stumped me with Kashyyyk.
oh, okay.
Kashyyyk, yeah.
You guys just both stumped me, so whatever.
Yeah, I didn't know back then where Chewie's home planet was, and that's how he got me.
And it went question to question, question to question, and it got to the point where a bunch of us just went outside the garage because it got really boring for us. You know, we wanted to watch the hockey game, and it wasn't going on. And these two went at it, and ever since then, you guys have been closer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
Star Wars brings everybody together. It binds us.
And even though we can disagree, it brings us together to be able to have these conversations.
And we hope it brings you guys together. And with that, that's the end of the show. Jason, where can the people find you when you move away to the island?
I'm not going to be in Alberta. I'm going to be on Vancouver Island in BC, but you can still hit me up on Instagram at Vintage Star Wars. Follow me, like me, hate me, do whatever you have to do. I'm there.
Oh my God, that reminds me. You totally got famous on Instagram.
I
Oh,
did.
kind of,
we
but-
talked about that in the last show.
Oh, I just got the email on her. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
I had my 15 minutes of fame.
yeah.
Jeff, do you want them to find you on anywhere on
No.
the internet or not really?
No.
All right. And guys, you can find me email at movieguysyfi@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at movieguysyfi. Thanks so much, Jeff.
No problem. I enjoyed it.
Jason, thanks for everything. Thanks
Yeah,
for all
you're
the
welcome.
shows. I'll never be able to repay you for helping me out getting this up and
It's
going.
been fun. It's been fun.
And remember, everybody, may the force be with you, and nerds rule the world.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm empty. I'll have to fix that.